Okay, I thought I'd make a video about converting a Bakfiets long, here it is, to electric using the Bafang motor system, which I got off Amazon. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not much of a professional with videos, but I found it really difficult to find any information about how to do this and came up with a load of questions. So I'm going to record this and we'll see how we get on. Hopefully it'll be useful for some other people. The first thing I found out is that you've got to have the right type of Bakfiets for this to work. Some of the Bakfiets bikes have a little rib like under here, but you can see that this one doesn't have one. It's kind of a bit dark here, but it's if you have a little rib under here, then the motor is not going to sit in the right place. It's going to get stuck on the rib. So you have to have one of the newer models. I think probably in the last 10 years or so. So that's the first thing that I found out. So these are the bits that I've ordered. So I've ended up with a 250 watt 48 volt Bafang, I think it's BBSO2B motor, and then I've gone for the rack battery. So we've gone for a 48 volt rack battery, which we'll see a bit later. And then in terms of the accessories, so these I think are the brake sensors. So they offered you brake sensors versus or brake levers, and I couldn't work out whether the brake levers were short pull or long pull, so I went for the brake sensors just in case. And then I got the gear sensor. I don't know whether I'm going to need that, but we'll give it a go. I got this connecting thing that connects the system to your computer if you need to edit stuff on it. I think all the rest of the stuff comes as standard. I got 36 tooth chainring, which I think is similar to the 34 in the Nexus drive that we've got here. And what else comes? They give you a light, but I don't think I'm going to use that because I've already got a light on the front, and I'm not sure the cable will be used long enough. I decided to go for the DPC18, I think it is, display. So it was the most expensive option they had, but they weren't that bad, sort of 60 quid total. Those are the cranks, fixing materials. Not quite sure what all of that is yet. And that's for converting the battery charger. Just one thing to know actually, and I've had to order some extra parts for the Bakfiets at the back here. That's the way that you connect your rack, and the rack that they give you only connects onto eyelets on the side, so you have to get a converter. I'll get some details about that when it arrives. I'll leave it there for now, and I'll let you know how I get on. So first challenge was just getting off the chain guard and starting to get the chain set off and so forth. I'm trying to work out whether I can use the chain guard again. I reckon this piece here though is probably going to make it a bit difficult. Just an update actually, I found out that this is a 38 tooth rather than a 36 tooth. So actually my new chainring is going to be slightly smaller, so I may have to reduce the chain size a little bit, but at least it's not going to be too big for the chain guard, so we'll see how it works. Right, so I've taken off the chain set and the bottom bracket, and just I don't know, I always forget this, but and just to confirm on the Bakfiets that you turn clockwise on the drive side and anti-clockwise on the non-drive side to take out the bottom bracket. That seemed to work for me at least. Now I'm just trying to work out whether I can fit the chain guard on again, but I think unfortunately this thing doesn't really fit in here. Hang on, let me just stop the video and I'll try again. I was saying, this bit just doesn't really fit in here, so I can't really do much with that. I mean, I guess I could take a little bit off the side just to see if it fits. Yeah, I might give that a go. The other thing that I've noticed as well, and I was reading about this a little bit, but when you pop this in, there is just, it doesn't quite go in flush there. So I didn't believe this when I was doing it, but it's almost like you need a spacer in there so it doesn't like hit against the sides. I think that's going to twist at the end. So I'm going to just have a look in the pack and see if there's anything about that. But so in the end, I found an old lock ring actually. I'm just going to stick that in there, I think, and that seems to give it enough spacing. I mean, this thing is just never going to work because it needs to be that way up, and it's not ever going to be that way up with this thing. So yeah, we'll leave that for now and see if by some magic the chain guard goes on without it. I guess one of the problems with sticking in the spacer here is that it brings things over a little bit on this side, and so what I found was with this plate here that you have to put in, I had to put in a couple of spacers, washer spacers in there, and actually sort of remembering on the website it said if you've got a 73mm bottom bracket you can order sort of longer bolts and spacers, so it might be a choice to get those in if you have to use the spacer on the other side. But I guess they'd have to be the same size, so just wanted to think about there. But yeah, the plate has bent maybe just a tiny bit, and what I decided to do was actually screw this sort of lock ring on first tight so that the plate didn't bend out. But yeah, just had to play around with it, but it seems to be pretty sturdy now, so all good. Another thing to just sort of be careful of is to make sure that you route your cables through when you get the chance. I forgot to do this the first time, so I had to take it all out, get it up again. But yeah, that cable wanted to go underneath there, so that had to be sorted out. And sorry, this video is not great, as I said. I'm not an expert on that. And then that other cable had to be routed through there, so yeah, just be careful of that. Okay, just an update on the chain guards. That that's not going to fit again. It's just too wide here to start with to get around, and also there's nothing to support it there. So I guess it'll be about looking for something that can go around here, maybe, or maybe there's another solution. So we'll leave the chain exposed for now. Another one just to be careful of as well, doesn't seem too bad on this, but the chain line is a little bit bent here, so if you see over there, the chain wheel is a little bit bit out compared to the sprocket at the back. It doesn't seem to be causing too many problems at the moment. It sort of works okay. Yeah, just a little bit of wear there. Maybe it'll bed in. Right, come up with a little bit of a problem here. So firstly, the rack doesn't go on with a sort of, it doesn't go on straight. It's sort of leaning backwards, which is, probably not a massive problem, but aesthetically not massively pleasing. But I think more of the issue is that the saddle here is like, so this is set up for me, which is fine. But if we take it lower for my wife, it's going to be, this is going to clash with here. So I'm not quite sure. I think I'm going to have to go back to the manufacturers and see what they say. Otherwise, it might be about getting the other type of battery. So hopefully I've solved this pannier rack issue by putting in these sort of bars here that I got online, and then sort of moved everything back a little bit. I've also put in the adapter to make the eyelets there as well. So yeah, we'll see how that works, but I hope it's strong enough. I could only get M5 bolts in there, where these ones use M6s, and you can still see that the seat will clash there, but hopefully it goes low enough now it's flat so that my wife can sit on it. I can slide this back, but I'm just a bit worried that that's going to be not strong enough, but we'll see what happens. So next challenge was that the cable connecting here, the battery holder, to the motor was just not long enough. So they included like a little extra part in the pack, which I've just had to sort of wire together. We'll see if it's good enough or whether that's not a good enough connection, but hopefully. So the other challenges here were getting the speed sensor on without it clashing. So I've popped the speed sensor on there, but getting it to line up was not easy. And then you've got to plug that in here to that cable, and then there's a sort of extension cable which runs along here and then plugs into the screen and into the various the brake cable things. You've got to stick these things on here, you see, and I believe when that breaks the motor, or cuts the motor. Now this is for the throttle. The problem I've got is that I think the only connection for the gear sensor, which I was going to put on where I bought at Extra Expense, is down here. So I guess I'd probably need another like length to get that in, but yeah, I'll have to contact manufacturers, see why they didn't include that. But yeah, I guess we'll go and give it a test run, see if it actually works. I'm not really that confident with the connection I've put at the back, but we'll see what happens. So rather surprisingly, it does work. So you just got to turn the button on under here, and then you should see this flash up like that. And then you just turn it on here, and on comes the screen. And then I generally found that until I turned this up to maybe 6 or 7 or 8, I couldn't really feel it, but it did really give some oomph once I was on 8. But yeah, so I guess the only bit that I haven't been able to do is put in the gear sensor, but it didn't seem to cause a problem. The motor was sort of cutting out when I pressed the brakes. I didn't seem to have a problem when I was changing gear, really. So yeah, I guess we'll check it out when it goes out on the road. But yeah, what I found was that when I went in here, so you have to sort of hold on here for the settings. Oh no, you need to double click, sorry. And then you go in here, and the speed limit was on like 90 or something. I think the official speed limit in the UK is 15.5 miles an hour, which is like 25 kilometers per hour. So you have to change that up, and we'll see if that sort of cuts out when we hit 25 miles an hour. But yeah, I don't know what AL sensitivity is. I guess we'll find out. But yeah, all seems to work quite well at the moment. So yeah, I'll maybe report back in once we've had it out on the open road. So I thought I'd just finish off this video by saying, well, we've had it out on the road a few times now, and yeah, it works. Not had any issues with power, like getting us up hills around London at least, and I'd say that it's not super smooth. Like you get like a boost when you start, and then it sort of seems to tail off, and then when you change gear, maybe you get another boost. It's not sort of super smooth most of the time. And so yeah, and it sort of runs on a little bit once you stop pedaling, so it's not, yeah, it could be better. Maybe there's some things I can change when I plug in the USB and so forth. Anyway, I thought I would just go through, actually, just to finish off how, the decisions I made when purchasing. So I was on Amazon here, and so I went for the 250 kit, and I got it from Last Cycle EU. Anyway, yeah, it allows you to customize here. So I went for the 48 volt 250 watt motor. So 250 watt is the max you can have in the UK. And I thought, yeah, from reading stuff, that the 48 volt would be slightly more powerful, essentially, for the cargo bike. In terms of displays, I went for the most expensive one option here, the DPC 18, and it's fine. I don't really have a view on any of the other ones being better or worse, but yeah, this one seems to be fine. I went for the 36 tooth chain ring. Don't really know what any of these offset bits mean, but it seemed to be fine. It didn't cause too much trouble. We've got the bit about the chain line earlier. In terms of the battery, the options, I went for the rack battery, and we've been through, the issues there. And then in terms of the brake levers or the brake sensors, as I say, I went for the brake sensors, but I wasn't sure whether the brake levers would be compatible with our drum brakes, but the brake sensors seem to work just fine. In terms of the gear shift sensor, I went for plastic. I don't know what the difference between plastic and metal is, but I think I don't think you actually need this. I've not fitted it. I think I said earlier that I'm not sure if I could fit it, but I've sort of worked out that you could. I guess it doesn't necessarily need to go into the shifter. It could just have the cable running through it, sort of closer to the motor. But yeah, as I say, it didn't feel like it really needed it. But anyway, I got that. And then this thing about the 73mm screws and washers, sort of saying that before, that the motor didn't quite fit on the drive side. It sort of crashed up against the chain stays. Sorry. And so I don't know. Maybe having these 73mm screws and washers would be helpful. Just to see if so. Yeah, I don't think there's a problem in just adding them. You might as well, and then see if that gives you the bits that you need. As I say, out of the box it doesn't quite fit, so I had to put that old lock ring on and a couple of washers on the other side to make it work. Those were the combinations I got, and that it's actually come out a little bit cheaper now, which is frustrating, but I think it was about 700 quid for me. So anyway, well, I hope that's been helpful, and drop any questions on the chat, maybe if I do any work on the programming of the unit, then I will. The other thing I'll say is I did buy some new connectors for the battery as well, and I'll get those fitted so it's a better connection than the sort of bodging together that I did. But you can buy those on here as well. I think they were XT60 connectors, so you can just buy these, and I think you need to have a soldering iron to just solder on the cable internally. But if there's any problems, I'll sort of flag those in a separate video anyway. All right, good luck.